Hi, welcome to my channel. This video provides the model questions and answers of English for Teachers Service Commission examination. These are only model answers. For more information, please refer to many resources. Let's see the model questions and answers in detail.
Question: how can grammar teaching be made more interactive and communicative in a secondary level classroom? Give practical strategies. TSC 2082. The points to be considered before answering this question. Understand the core focus. The question focuses on grammar teaching, and specifically how it can be made interactive and communicative, not just traditional rule-based. Target level. The context is secondary level, so your strategies must suit learners aged roughly 13 to 16 years. Balance of theory and practice. Mention some communicative language teaching principles, but focus mainly on practical classroom strategies. Use clear structure. Divide your answer into an introduction, main strategies, with examples, and a short conclusion. Time and length. Aim to write about 250 to 300 words, which fits the 15 to 18 minutes handwriting limit. Model answer. In the modern pedagogical landscape, the focus of grammar teaching has shifted from rote memorization of rules to the ability to use grammar for effective communication. To achieve this in a secondary level classroom, teaching must be both interactive, involving active student participation, and communicative, focusing on the meaningful use of language. By adopting student-centered strategies, we can transform the grammar classroom into a dynamic and engaging environment. Practical strategies for interactive and communicative grammar teaching. Here are some practical strategies to make grammar teaching more interactive and communicative. 1. Task-based learning, TBL. This approach involves students using the target grammar to complete a specific task. The focus is on completing the task, with the grammar being the tool. Strategy: give students a problem-solving task. For instance, to teach conditional clauses, if you could present a scenario, you have found a lost wallet with a lot of money inside. In groups, decide what you would do if you were in that situation. Groups then discuss and later present their decisions, naturally using sentences like, if I found a wallet, I would try to find the owner. 2. Gamification of grammar. Using games makes learning fun, reduces anxiety, and encourages active participation. Strategy: grammar auction. Create sentences with and without grammatical errors. Divide students into teams and give each team a fictional budget. Teams then bid on the sentences they believe are grammatically correct. This encourages discussion and critical thinking about grammar rules in a competitive and engaging format. 3. Inductive approach, discovering the rules. Instead of stating the grammar rule, provide students with examples of the target language in context and guide them to figure out the rule themselves. Strategy: using a text or dialogue. Provide a short, interesting paragraph or a dialogue that contains multiple examples of the target grammar, example the present perfect tense. Ask students, in pairs, to identify the verb forms and discuss why they think that particular tense is used. The teacher then facilitates a whole class discussion to arrive at the grammatical rule. 4. Role-playing and simulations. These activities require students to use language in a context that simulates a real-life situation, making the use of grammar purposeful. Strategy: job interview. To practice asking and answering questions, WH questions, yes/no questions, set up a mock job interview scenario. One student can be the interviewer and the other the interviewee. This not only practices grammar but also builds valuable life skills. 5. Using authentic materials. Bringing real-world materials into the classroom makes the language feel more relevant and current. Strategy: newspaper headlines or advertisements. To teach passive voice, bring in newspaper headlines, example 3 people injured in accident. To teach imperative verbs, use advertisements, buy one, get one free. Students can analyze these materials and then create their own examples. Conclusion. Ultimately, the goal is to make students see grammar not as a set of restrictive rules, but as a resource for expressing themselves clearly and effectively. By integrating these interactive and communicative strategies, we can foster a more positive attitude towards grammar and empower our secondary level students to become more confident and competent users of the English language. This approach not only enhances learning but also equips students with the communication skills necessary for their future academic and professional lives. Question: what are the key stages of the writing process? Briefly explain any three with suitable examples for secondary level learners. Critically evaluate the pros and cons of using analytic versus holistic scoring methods in assessing students' writing performance. Model answer. Introduction. The writing process is a recursive, multi-stage approach to composition that empowers students to develop their ideas and improve their work systematically. Understanding these stages is crucial for teachers to guide students effectively. Similarly, choosing the right assessment method is vital for providing meaningful feedback. This answer will outline the stages of the writing process with practical examples and critically evaluate analytic and holistic scoring methods for assessing student writing. Part 1: Key stages of the writing process. The writing process can be broken down into 5 key stages. Pre-writing, brainstorming and planning before drafting. Drafting, writing the first version of the text. Revising, improving the content, structure, and ideas. Editing/proofreading, correcting grammar, spelling, and punctuation errors. Publishing/sharing, presenting the final work to an audience. Below are explanations of 3 stages with examples suitable for secondary level learners. 1. Pre-writing, the planning stage. This is the most critical stage where ideas are generated and organized. Rushing this stage often leads to a disorganized and underdeveloped piece of writing. Example for secondary level: if the topic is the impact of mobile phones on teenagers, the teacher can guide students to use a mind map. The central bubble would be mobile phones' impact. Radiating from it, students could draw branches for positive impacts, example access to information, staying connected, and negative impacts, example distraction from studies, cyberbullying. This visual technique helps students generate and structure their thoughts before they begin writing paragraphs. 2. Drafting, the writing stage. During drafting, students focus on getting their ideas down on paper without worrying too much about perfection. The goal is to develop the ideas generated during pre-writing into sentences and paragraphs. Example for secondary level: following the mind map, a student would write a first draft of an essay. A sample sentence might be, "Mobile phones are very useful for students because they can search anything on the internet for their homework, but sometimes, they just play games and waste time." At this stage, the focus is on fluency and content, not perfect grammar or sentence structure. 3. Revising, the big picture stage. Revising involves re-seeing the draft to improve its overall quality. It focuses on the big picture elements like clarity, organization, and development of ideas. This is often done through peer feedback or self-assessment. Example for secondary level: the teacher can implement a peer revision activity using the ARMS strategy. Students exchange their drafts and give feedback on. Add: is more detail or an example needed? Remove: are there any unnecessary sentences or ideas? Move: could the sentences or paragraphs be reordered for better flow? Substitute: can a weak word be replaced with a stronger one? This structured feedback helps students improve the content and organization of their work before focusing on minor errors. Part 2: Analytic versus holistic scoring, a critical evaluation. Choosing a scoring method depends on the purpose of the assessment. Both analytic and holistic rubrics have distinct advantages and disadvantages. Analytic scoring. This method assesses different components of a piece of writing separately. A rubric is used with distinct criteria, example organization, vocabulary, grammar, content, and each is given a separate score. Pros. Provides specific feedback. It clearly shows students their specific areas of strength and weakness. A student might see they scored high on content but low on grammar, which directs their learning. High reliability. Scoring is more consistent and objective across different students and assessors because the criteria are explicit. Supports formative assessment. It is an excellent tool for developmental feedback, helping teachers tailor instruction and students to focus their revision efforts. Cons. Time-consuming. Assessing each criterion separately takes significantly more time for the teacher. Can miss the whole picture. Sometimes, a piece of writing might be effective as a whole despite having weaknesses in one area. Analytic scoring can sometimes penalize a creative or impactful piece for minor errors. Holistic scoring. This method provides a single, overall score based on the general impression of the entire piece of writing. The assessor reads the work as a whole and matches it to a predetermined standard on a scale, example a score from 1 to 5. Pros. Fast and efficient. It is much quicker than analytic scoring, making it suitable for large-scale assessments like final exams. Focuses on overall communicative competence. It assesses how well the writing works as a whole piece of communication, which aligns with communicative language teaching goals. Cons. Vague feedback. A single score, example 3 out of 5, does not tell the student why their writing received that score. It doesn't specify whether the issue was with ideas, organization, or grammar. Lower reliability. Scoring can be subjective and inconsistent. Different teachers might give the same paper different holistic scores based on their individual impressions. Conclusion. In conclusion, both the writing process and appropriate assessment methods are fundamental to teaching writing effectively. While the writing process provides a scaffold for students to produce better work, the choice of scoring method depends on the context. Analytic scoring is superior for classroom-based formative assessment and providing diagnostic feedback. In contrast, holistic scoring is more practical for summative assessments where efficiency is paramount. A balanced teacher will likely use both methods at different times to support student learning and evaluate performance effectively. Question: what is the importance of language functions in English language teaching? Design any 4 activities used in testing language functions in English and illustrate them with examples. 2080. Model answer. Introduction. In modern English language teaching, ELT, the focus has shifted from teaching language as a set of grammatical rules to teaching it as a tool for communication. This is where language functions, the purposes for which we use language, become critically important. A language function is the why behind what we say, such as requesting, apologizing, or advising. Integrating functions into teaching and testing ensures that students can use English effectively in real-life situations. The importance of language functions. Teaching language functions is central to the communicative language teaching (CLT) approach. Its importance lies in several key areas. Promotes communicative competence. It moves beyond grammatical accuracy and focuses on enabling students to convey their intended meaning in a socially appropriate way. Provides real-world context. Functions are based on real-life interactions. Teaching students how to agree/disagree, make suggestions, or complain equips them with the practical skills needed outside the classroom. Motivates learners. Students are more motivated when they learn language that is immediately useful. When they can successfully perform a function like ordering food in a restaurant, they see the direct value of their learning. Contextualizes grammar and vocabulary. Instead of learning grammar rules or vocabulary lists in isolation, students learn them in the context of a function. For example, the modal verb should is naturally learned when teaching the function of giving advice. Activities for testing language functions. Testing language functions requires assessing a student's ability to use language to accomplish a task. This is best done through performance-based activities rather than traditional pen and paper tests. Here are 4 activities for testing language functions at the secondary level. 1 activity, role play/simulation. Function, S, tested, making requests, giving suggestions, polite refusal. Description, students are given a scenario with specific roles and a communicative goal. The teacher observes their ability to use appropriate language to achieve that goal. Example task. Student A, examiner/teacher, you are a librarian. A student wants to borrow a reference book that cannot be taken out of the library. Student B, examinee, you are a student. You urgently need a reference book for a project due tomorrow. Politely request the librarian to let you borrow it for just one night and suggest a solution, example leaving your ID card. 2 activity, information gap. Function, S, tested, asking for and giving specific information, question formation. Description, 2 students are given similar but incomplete sets of information. They must communicate with each other to fill in the missing details. Example task. Student A receives a picture of a park with some items, example 2 children on a swing, a man reading on a bench. Student B receives a similar picture but with different details, example 3 children on the swing, a woman reading on the bench. Without showing each other their pictures, they must ask questions to find 5 differences, example how many children are on the swing in your picture, what is the person on the bench doing? 3 activity, written response, problem solution. Function, S, tested, complaining, explaining a problem, requesting action. Description, this tests functional language in a written context. Students are given a problem and must write a short, purposeful text like an email or a letter. Example task. You recently bought a new pen from the local stationery shop, but it stopped working after one day. Write a short, polite note to the shopkeeper. In your note, explain the problem and request a replacement or a refund. 4 activity, ranking or prioritizing. Function, S, tested, expressing opinions, justifying, agreeing and disagreeing. Description, students, in pairs or small groups, are given a list of items or options and a situation. They must discuss and negotiate to rank the items in order of importance. Example task. You are stranded on a deserted island. You have found a box containing the following items: a knife, a box of matches, a rope, a bottle of water, and a book. In your group, discuss and decide the order of importance of these items for your survival. You must explain the reason for your choices and agree on a final list. Conclusion. In summary, language functions are the backbone of communicative language teaching. By focusing on them, we teach students to be successful communicators. Consequently, our assessment methods must also evolve to test this functional ability. Activities like role plays, information gaps, and problem-solving tasks provide a far more accurate measure of a student's real-world language proficiency than tests that only focus on grammatical knowledge. Question. Explain about communicative approach of teaching. If you are planning to use this approach of teaching English to grade 8, what will be the appropriate teaching activities? Illustrate. Model answer. The communicative approach to teaching English. The communicative language teaching, CLT, approach centers on the idea that the primary goal of language learning is to achieve communicative competence. This means enabling students to use the target language effectively and appropriately in real-life situations. Instead of solely focusing on grammatical accuracy, CLT emphasizes meaningful interaction and the ability to convey messages. Key principles of CLT include focusing on meaning over form, prioritizing fluency in the initial stages, integrating all four language skills, listening, speaking, reading, and writing, using authentic materials and tasks, and promoting learner autonomy. The teacher acts more as a facilitator, encouraging students to communicate with each other. Appropriate teaching activities for Grade 8. For teaching English to Grade 8 students in Nepal using CLT, engaging and interactive activities are crucial. Here are some appropriate examples. Information gap activity, My School Day, students work in pairs. Student A has a timetable with some blank spaces, while student B has the missing information. They ask each other questions like what subject do you have after the Nepali class, and at what time does the lunch break start, to complete their timetables. This activity encourages asking and answering questions about daily routines. Role play, ordering food. Students are given roles as a customer and a waiter/waitress in a restaurant. The teacher provides a sample menu. Students practice ordering food, asking about dishes, and responding to the customer's requests. This activity helps develop conversational skills in a common real-life scenario. Problem-solving task, planning a class event. Divide students into small groups and ask them to plan a small class event, such as a birthday celebration or a farewell program. They need to discuss and decide on the date, time, venue, activities, and budget, presenting their plan to the class. This fosters collaborative communication and decision-making. Discussion, the importance of reading. Initiate a class discussion on the topic of why is reading important. Encourage students to share their opinions, experiences, and reasons in English. The teacher can guide the discussion by asking probing questions and encouraging active participation. Story retelling, The Clever Fox. The teacher tells a short, simple story like The Clever Fox and the Greedy Lion. Then, students work in pairs to retell the story to each other in their own words. This enhances listening comprehension and speaking fluency. These activities promote active use of English in a fun and engaging way, aligning with the principles of the communicative language teaching approach and helping Grade 8 students develop practical communication skills. Question: what is the importance of language functions in English language teaching? Design any 4 activities used in testing language functions in English and illustrate them with examples. 4 + 6, 2080. Answer: the importance of language functions in English language teaching lies in their focus on purposeful communication. While grammar and vocabulary provide the building blocks of language, language functions highlight how these elements are used in real-world interactions to achieve specific communicative goals. Point 1: Teaching language functions helps learners to communicate effectively. They learn to use appropriate language for different situations and intentions. Point 2: Understand spoken and written English better. Recognizing functions helps in interpreting the meaning behind the words. Become more confident speakers and writers. They gain practical skills for various communicative contexts. Point 3: Engage in meaningful interactions. They can participate actively in conversations and express themselves clearly. Point 4: Develop pragmatic competence. They understand the social and cultural appropriateness of language use. Point 5: Here are 4 activities used in testing language functions in English for lower/secondary level students, with illustrations. Importance of language functions in ELT. Language functions are the specific purposes for which we use language, such as requesting, offering, apologizing, and giving advice. Point 6: In English language teaching, ELT Focusing on language functions is crucial because it equips students with the practical skills to communicate effectively in real-life situations. Point 7. Understanding and being able to use different language functions enables learners to go beyond simply knowing grammar and vocabulary and to actively engage in meaningful conversations and interactions. It fosters their ability to express intentions, manage social encounters, and understand the underlying purpose of communication. Point 9. 4 activities for testing language functions, lower/secondary level. Responding to requests. This activity tests the ability to understand and respond appropriately to different types of requests, example polite, direct, informal. Activity. Students listen to or read short dialogues where one person makes a request. They then choose the most appropriate response from a set of options or write their own response. Illustration. Request: could you please lend me your pen? Options. A. Yes, I have a pen. B. Sure, here you are. C. No, I don't like writing. Correct response: B. Sure, here you are. Making suggestions. This activity assesses the ability to propose ideas or courses of action politely and appropriately. Activity. Students are given a scenario where a suggestion needs to be made. They are asked to write or say an appropriate suggestion. Illustration. Scenario: your friend is bored and doesn't know what to do on the weekend. What could you suggest? Possible suggestions. Why don't we go to the movies? How about we play football? We could visit the museum. Expressing opinions. This activity tests the ability to state personal views or beliefs on a given topic in a clear and concise manner. Activity. Students are presented with a statement or a question and asked to express their opinion, providing a brief reason if possible. Illustration. Statement: playing video games is bad for children. Possible opinions. I think that's true because they can be addictive. I don't agree. Some video games can be educational. In my opinion, it depends on the type of video game and how much time they spend playing. Giving directions. This activity evaluates the ability to provide clear and logical instructions on how to get from one place to another. Activity. Students are given a simple map or a verbal description of a starting point and a destination. They then need to write or give spoken directions. Illustration. Starting point: you are at the school gate. Destination: the library. Possible directions: go straight. Turn left at the first corner. Walk past the playground, and the library is on your right, next to the computer lab. These activities provide practical ways to test students' ability to use English for different communicative purposes relevant to their level and daily lives. Thank you. See you in next videos.
Thank you for watching this video. Please like, comment and subscribe my channel. And don't forget to press bell icon for more videos.